Hi, Democrats. Today is Thursday, February 29th, and it's time for the Chair's Daily Live. Happy Thursday, happy Leap Day, happy last day of Black History Month. And because we got a bonus day in Black History Month this year, I thought I'd take today to talk about some interesting Oklahoma Black history facts. I've heard bits and pieces of it, but I've done a little bit of research, and it's kind of interesting. So I bet you didn't know that Oklahoma was almost an all-Black state. It's true. Oklahoma was almost an all-Black state. So Oklahoma, as you know, was just plain territory. And then with President Jackson, he assigned Oklahoma, when he was doing removal, he assigned that for the tribes to move to Oklahoma and be with Oklahoma. Well, a lot of African Americans traveled with the tribes to Oklahoma. Now, some of them, like my family, traveled with the tribes because we were part of their property. And some traveled with the tribes because that's who they hung out with in Mexico and North Carolina and all those places that they were moved from. And so because it was wide open spaces, Oklahoma, the territory that was going to be Oklahoma, didn't have all of the racial bias, and it was just wide open, and folks got along, and it looked like a great place. So much so that folks came to Oklahoma after the Civil War. They're like, hey, I hear there's a place over there under Kansas where we can go and thrive. And so a lot of Black folks came to Oklahoma to settle. So many so that a congressman from Kansas put up a bill to make Oklahoma a Black state. It made it all the way to a congressional committee. And then folks said, oh my gosh, Oklahoma sounds great. And the Oklahoma Immigration Society came, and now we have racial tensions. And so from 1865 to 1920, Black towns thrived in Oklahoma. But when Oklahoma became a state, dun, 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 the first bill that Oklahoma passed was about segregation. And that's when things started kind of getting shaky. There are still nearly 50 predominantly Black towns in Oklahoma that started out as Black towns. And so it's just a little bit of interesting history. And then you think that this was almost a Black state, and we're down to 9.4% African-American population in the state. Just a little interesting tidbit that I thought I'd share. On this Thursday, which is usually reserved for legislative updates, but it's Black History Month, so I took a little privilege. But it's Legislative Update Day, and so I'd like to welcome Representative from Oklahoma City, HD 93, Representative Mickey Dollens.
Hey, good afternoon, Alicia. Hello, everyone out there. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. We're hanging in there. We just wrapped up week 4, day 16 of the Oklahoma legislative session. So a lot to talk about this week.
Yesterday, I talked about how everybody's kind of on edge and super tense, and I asked people to kind of take a break. But I'm going to say, I bet it feels a little less tense for you at the legislature because Democrats are getting bills through committees.
Oh, it's a great thing. I wouldn't say that overall things are less tense. We've been dealing with some pretty bad bills, but on the other side of the coin, I am very proud of the House Democratic Caucus and our leadership team. So far, we've had over 50 bills make it out of committee. I believe everyone in the House Democratic Caucus has had at least one make it out. And some of the notable ones I was just looking through this week, Representative Blanchette from Tulsa in House District 78, she passed a bill out of committee that creates the Oklahoma Affordable Housing Commission. This bill would help develop looks like a statewide plan to increase affordable housing. We know how incredibly difficult it is to even find a single family home right now with conglomerates like BlackRock and other corporate landlords buying up the housing market. And so it's high time we really address this. And it sounds like her bill is a great step in the right direction. I've addressed this issue in the past. I've suggested putting a moratorium on corporate landlords from buying up the housing market. My colleagues across the aisle said, no, those are against free market principles, which, side note, we'll talk a little bit about that topic.
Oh, no. I don't know if I'm the only one frozen or if Rep. Dollens.
rural Oklahoma and artificially inflating the price for their medical marijuana grows, and then also pricing out legitimate farmers and ranchers from expanding their operations. So to that, I would just say where there's a will, there's a way. And along the lines of capitalism and free markets and competition, we heard a really interesting bill today that expands utilities monopoly in this state. So would be happy to address that a little bit more. But I also want to give a shout out to Representative Suzanne Schreiber from House District 70. She's addressing an extremely important need right now when it comes to childcare in Oklahoma. And we know that one of the best ways that we can help families is by giving them opportunities for affordable childcare. And what this bill would do is incentivize employers to help pay part of that childcare cost so that more people can get into the workforce. So I was really happy to see that advance out of committee as well.
Well, see, that's great. And I mean, this just keeps underscoring what I believe about the Democrats at the Capitol, that you guys keep putting forth bills that improve the lives of Oklahomans.
Yeah, that's the idea behind every bill that we put a lot of thought, a lot of effort. Our legislative assistants help us out a lot as well. And every bill that we author is coming from a constituent or coming from a great need that we recognize in our districts and that will help the everyday Oklahoman.
And I'm going to shout out, even though the leader isn't here, Leader Munson, for the coordination and making sure that you guys are speaking in one voice and helping advance bills out of committee and discussing them intelligently on the floor. So I'm just so proud of the work that you guys are doing, particularly.
I was going to say thank you for that. And it's a testament to our leadership team and the ideas behind getting messages out there, because I've noticed in the past we've had really good ideas that resonate with people. They just haven't heard about them. They didn't know that we authored those bills. And so we've really made an effort to get that information out to the public. So by you acknowledging that, it means a lot, tells us we're doing our jobs.
It feels good to see all the Democrat bills that are making it out of committee. So there's one, though, that caught my eye, and that's H. Bill 3943. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Thank you very much. And this is a bill that was given to me by Representative Provenzano. She didn't have enough room in her 8-bill lineup, and so she was gracious enough to ask me if I'd like to run this bill. And I looked at it and I said, absolutely. This bill puts more accountability and transparency on the State Department of Education by mandating that they file quarterly reports and expenditures to the state legislature. We know over the past year, there's been fiscal mismanagement from the GEAR funds and Class Wallet to the state superintendent going on a self-promotion tour across the United States on the taxpayer dollars. And then, of course, the latest debacle with the teacher bonus program and then having to claw those back. It's out of control. And anytime someone's got their fiscal house out of that in such chaos, it requires us as representatives who are stewards of the taxpayer dollars to rein it in. And this bill thankfully made it out of committee on a 9-2 vote, and now it's eligible to be heard on the House floor. And this is just one of 2 other bills that are seeking to put more, not just regulation, but mandates on fiscal transparency when it comes to the State Department of Education. There was an education secretary, the one before this one, who was all on board to work with Ryan Walters, but requested some budget documents that went ignored for 2 months. And eventually that led to her resignation. And in her resignation letter, she put pretty clearly and plainly that she could not do her job without the budget documents needed to show transparency. And that led to her resignation. So her being a Republican, I think, really resonated with my colleagues across the aisle and really hit the point home that we've got to do something. And as a result, you're seeing these bills make their way through the legislative process.
I would think and hope that accountability and transparency would be a nonpartisan issue, or maybe a bipartisan issue, that both sides would want transparency and accountability, because I can't imagine that they relish us being on national news for all of the misdeeds that we're on the national news for.
Yeah, it's really hard to justify with constituents back home when they're just constantly seeing fiscal mismanagement from the Department of Education, which is our largest appropriated agency in the entire state. They're dealing with multi-billion-dollar budget, and it has to be reined in. Unfortunately, the superintendent that we have, Ron Walters, just continues to treat it as his political platform, his political campaign platform, and now finally there's some legislative action being taken.
So you think it's a political platform? Okay, I'll go with that. I think it's his platform for what he wants to do next.
Well, I mean that in the sense that I don't think it should be used as a political platform. I think that he's abusing his position and the power that he has by, for example, threatening accreditation to Edmond schools, Tulsa schools on these crazy accusations that schools are littered with porn, or he's putting on these virtual signaling videos that he's going into like an elementary school and praying with children while he's mic'd up and being recorded, and then posts it to his State Department of Education's Twitter handle. All of this stuff is to him just a dog and pony show, and it's abusing the agency. And so really it's gone beyond the pale, and now we're seeing a lot more legislative action from Republicans, thankfully.
I'm glad to see that. So, Class Wallet, right? We have sued a couple of times, and our Attorney General just recently said, knock it off. Let's stop suing Class Wallet.
Yeah, unfortunately, Class Wallet was used as a scapegoat for their own ineptitude and lack of leadership. And the AG, Drummond, came in and he did the right thing and said, hey, you're not going to use Class Wallet as a scapegoat when you were giving blanket approvals. The third party had nothing to do with your fiscal mismanagement. And now finally that's being addressed as well.
Right. Then we had the nationwide tour. And finally, we had, as you mentioned, the teacher bonus program. Did we ever get resolution on that? Did we claw back the bonuses? Has that come to the end?
I know the Department of Education has really backed off on that, and I believe that they're coming to a resolution. And there's another example of the AG having to step in to get control again over all the chaos. So, yeah, I believe that situation is being figured out, and hopefully they come to a conclusion sooner than later. Because as people remember, some of those teachers who were given the bonus, they filled out the application to the best of their ability and they were approved. And as teachers, being a former teacher, I didn't even have kids at the time, but I can't imagine these teachers who have families and they were making home improvements and investing in upkeep and maybe getting a new vehicle. I think one person said that money has been spent and now they're being told to give it back, when I think that was last month and they had like 30 days to give it back. But I think that it's all being sorted out now, and hopefully there's not another debacle like that again, especially with these bills making their way through the legislative process.
And so with these quarterly reports, something won't get so far out of hand before we get our arms around it, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And I've mentioned a couple of times that State Auditor Cindy Byrd had made a recommendation that said that this would help in transparency and accountability, and so that helped a lot too.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to say this as we round up. Once again, this is a moment where I am proud to be an Oklahoma Democrat, watching the work that you guys are doing down there, and I'm going to double down for anybody who's watching. They need more. We need more legislators in our state house and our state senate. And so if you're thinking about running, it's not too late. If you know somebody who you think should run, it's not too late. If you know somebody who's running, right now is the time to get behind them. Help them knock doors, donate money, help them any way that you can, because this is proof that they're doing good work, but we need more. We need more folks there helping them do the work. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, anyone who puts their name on the ballot is very courageous, and the people who help them get over the finish line or even get out there and knock doors and work hard every day, help them raise money, should be commended as well. The best way to get our message out to people is face to face. I've talked to quite a few people in my district lately. I've started knocking doors again, running for re-election, and I've talked to some people who don't agree with me on many issues when it comes to policy, but one gentleman last weekend told me that he's lived in his house since 1974, and to this day, I'm the only legislator in that district who's come to his house and visited with him one-on-one, and he shook my hand and said he respected that. So I think that, that's how we start to change, and the way that we do that is by having those conversations. But in order to do that, we need candidates to run. And I know that you're looking at the district and you're like, oh, wow, this is like heavily Republican. I don't know if I can do this. And it would be an uphill battle, but know that overall you're making a difference by putting yourself out there, by getting a message out there, by having volunteers go out into your community. And then over time, that will make a difference for the collective state of Oklahoma. And for that, I just want to say on behalf of the House Democratic Caucus, thank you to anyone who puts their name on that ballot. Filing is coming up. The filing deadline is April 15th, I believe is the date. And
April 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
April 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And so if you're kind of thinking about it, feel free to reach out to me on social media, or you can reach out to me at my personal email at mickeydollens.com or mickeydollens@gmail.com. And I'd be happy to help you get going and give you the basics. When I ran for office, I didn't have any political connections. I just had a walk card and a voting list. And I went to the people who voted and I had those conversations. Always remember, be the rock star in your neighborhood. Forget about all the banquets and the galas. Too many candidates out there who are campaigning are trying to live a life like they're already elected. You need to be in the neighborhoods, talking to the people every single chance you get, and life gets busy, so you're not going to have that many opportunities. But when you do, don't spend your time at all the social events. Be social with your neighbors in your community, in your neighborhoods.
All righty. Thank you so very much for that, Mickey. Thank you all for joining us. If you were planning on voting early in person, you still have 2.5 hours to get to vote. No, 1.5 hour to vote today. The polls are open at your county election board, not your polling place, tomorrow, 8 to 6. And then Saturday, 8 to 2. And then you can always vote in person on the day of, on Tuesday, March 5th. I think there are 17 states in the Super Tuesday round. So I hope that you have your plan to vote. If you haven't already voted, we all need to show up and make sure that Oklahoma's voice is heard nationally.
Well said. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you.